Cool. So your first two games against Allen were really fast. Do you expect that we'll see two fast games again here? Are
I
these
do
games decided
think
very quickly? Usually, is my question.
it really can be either way. Usually it's on the slower side, and I think Ryan's a little bit more of a control-y blue red white player than I am. I play Delver and Legacy, so I definitely like pushing action when possible. And I think Ryan likes to slow things down and take control. So I don't know if that's definitely how this is going to go, but that would be my guess.
Gotcha. Well, nobody's dead yet.
Allen is winning.
Yeah, Allen is winning.
There was a point in this game where if time was called and there was no time left in the round, whoever had more life won the match.
Yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Merchant Scroll. Cycle Street Wraith in response. What's he digging for?
I could see him fluster storming this. That seems very reasonable. I would think that Ryan would either get a Force of Will if he doesn't have one already, or maybe just Ancestral Recall if he's already got some free counter magic.
Well, he fetched, so he's going to do something. If you just tuned in, this is round 3 of Vintage. We saw Dave Kaplan win 2 rounds. And he earned a commentary job. All right, there's the Flusterstorm you predicted. Good call on that.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable.
Ryan removing gunk from his sleeves. And Alan Dark Ritual. All right,
That
so
is a funny looking dark ritual. I wasn't quite sure what that was, looking at it upside down, especially.
Necropotence gets dazed.
Oh, that's a great daze.
Yeah, that is really great. And a daze
Oh,
in
days
response.
back. Oh, this is Legacy. What's going on?
Legacy, but with Necropotence. I've seen some.
That's going to be a really tough Necropotence to come back from on Ryan's end.
Yeah, yeah.
He's going to need to like Lotus, Mentor, Time Walk. I mean, it's never guaranteed, but with 19 life, it's definitely looking pretty good for Alan.
I mean,
For
with
17, he Street Wraith.
oh, let's see how much life he pays here. He's paying 7 life. Okay. And then ending his turn.
Yeah, I don't have any experience playing Necropotence. I do know that it definitely is a skill-intensive card, and you don't want to play too conservatively or too aggressively.
Yeah.
You know, Alan's under no form of pressure whatsoever right now, so he definitely doesn't need to, try and win next turn. But at the same time, it's Vintage. Monastery Mentor can enter play immediately, or Ryan can just Ancestral into a bunch of counter magic.
This is true. So other than being in the hot seat on 90s MTG Monday Night Vintage, he really is under no pressure right now.
It's true. It's a good point.
It's the hot seat.
I actually I put Days in my deck at the last minute. I go back and forth between Spell Pierce and Days, and I got some good advice on getting Days in Vintage, and it seems like that's what everyone's doing now.
Yeah. Have you been playing on competitive Vintage online recently? The challenges and whatnot?
When quarantine first started a couple months ago, I was playing in the Saturday challenges for Vintage,
Right.
and I did okay. I got second in one of them,
Right. I remember that.
but after a few weeks, I kind of felt like I wanted to focus on some other stuff. So I haven't played in one in a little while.
What about Legacy? Have you been playing Legacy at all?
I have not played Legacy in quite a while. That's actually probably the format that I've been playing the most over the last year or so. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I've kind of enjoyed Vintage more as of late.
That's fair. You were talking about earlier. I think it was while you were playing. Yeah, you were playing. I mean, I personally and a lot of the players in our play group, the NYC Eternal group, have played more Vintage in the shutdown than they had in years. Just because we're all
Yeah,
webcamming each other. You don't have to bring your expensive deck with you to the store. You don't have to. You're just home playing. So it's just been kind of a convenient way to kind of bring back Vintage into our lives in some way. If you're going to look at the positives, I guess. All right, Thassa's Oracle responds to Demonic Consultation, gets a scoop. Pretty cool.
yeah,
What do you think?
yeah. I don't think it's clear cut either. I would probably lean towards the combo deck as well because they can just have a 2-card combo
Yep.
that wins. And for turn 0 interaction, you really need a force and a blue card. So that's eating up a bunch of your 5 cards already.
Exactly. Control players want to have as many resources available as possible. And by mulliganing... Oh, maybe they both mulligan to 6. Maybe that was I misread the
Agreement
die.
or yeah.
All right, maybe they're both at 6. Not sure. Now I'm second guessing myself. I thought I saw 5s on each die, but Alan clearly has 6 cards in hand, unless he cheated.
Alan's an honest guy, but he's also very skilled. So if he did cheat, we probably wouldn't even notice it.
That's a good point. Nah, no cheaters in our group, that's for sure.
All
right.
A good guy.
A card went to bottom for some reason. Not sure what that was. Dig Through Tau has joined us. What's up, Dig Through Tau? Seems like a missed opportunity there, yeah. About a turn 1 Llanowar Elves. Dig Through Tau is the current New York City Eternal champion. Tune in Wednesday night for Legacy. We have a bracket every week. We have a special challenger this week.
For anyone who's wondering what the Llanowar Elves reference is, Ryan is a notorious Elves player in as many formats as possible, but I guess he didn't choose that today for Vintage.
He has in the past. You can find some evidence of Vintage Elves played by Ryan Fisher on our YouTube channel, 90SMTG. Look through our Vintage section. We have him playing Elves on there and winning with it, incredibly.
I tried to make Skull Clamp work in one event, but I did it with tiny robots, not with elves.
Yeah. How do you feel about Dig Through Tau, David Thomas Tau, being our NYC Eternal champion? Do you think he's overrated, or what do you think, Dave?
David Tao is a very very skilled player. It doesn't surprise me at all that he's the champion.
3 weeks in a row, he's the champ.
Maybe I'll call Verizon and cancel his internet next week.
4 weeks, that's right. Sorry. It is 4 weeks. Three weeks against the same opponent. That's what I was thinking of. First week he beat Phil Blackman in the finals. Then the next 3 weeks in a row he beat Jason Murray in the finals. Dave, we have to have you back on for Legacy again. We have limited slots, obviously. It's not a 700-person tournament, but we'll get you back on soon. And hopefully you can win the championship. I wish you the best of luck.
Sure. That'd be great. How about you? Are we gonna get to see you out of the booth and on the mat someday?
You know, I know you're putting me on the spot now, but I'm trying to figure out how to do exactly that logistically, because I'm doing all the back end here. Um, I can't wait to figure it out and do it. I'm gonna jump in and battle as soon as I can. I'm ready.
Looks like we got ancestral from Ryan here. Alan is doing his normal street wraith in response.
Yep, we got a stack war. This is true.
Looks like it resolves. Lavinia. Immediate force from Alan. Nope. Oh, is that force back from Ryan?
Um, you might be looking at things on a delay. I'm not sure. Teferi's just dropped here by Ryan.
Oh, okay. I was on a little bit of a delay there.
Yeah, that's okay. No worries. Thank you, Dig Through Tao. Appreciate you. Yeah, there's been a few times recently I put myself on the schedule and I was like, I'll swap myself out.
Do you have any preferences? What would you be playing in Vintage right now?
In Vintage, the last time I played Vintage was before the ban restricted announcement, and I played a Lutri deck. I don't know if Lutri is, and I got to be honest, this was more me just trying it because I wanted to, not because I think it's the best deck ever. But I don't know if Lutri is still going to be a thing in Vintage. I guess that's a question for the audience. Is Lutri still going to be a thing in Vintage? And you, Dave.
So I actually, my Lutri arrived in the mail the same day it was, you know, the same day it was effectively, I think, pushed out of Vintage. I don't know if it's going to be good enough when you have to pay 3 to wish for it. But I'm sure someone will continue to try it and see if it's good. I probably am not going to try it again personally.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't play much Vintage, but and when I do, I just like pick the coolest deck from the latest dump of decks and just mess around with that. I'm not really a competitive Vintage player, put it that way. More casual, I would say.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about the Northeast Vintage scene is that it's extremely competitive, but at the same time, it's a very welcoming environment. You can try out stuff that's maybe a little, off the beaten path, and people offer quality feedback. So that really makes the gameplay enjoyable, and certainly appreciate that you've taken that and made it live stream now.
Roland MTG says sharp specs, Dave.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Chat is really nice on this third round here. Saying a lot of nice things about people. Dig Through Tao says Brian Kelly is still having success with Lutri. Interesting.
Brian Kelly has had the most success with the most interesting cards. Although I will say he's very ahead of his time. He was playing peak way before anyone else was playing it, and he's got something special. There's a reason he's the world champion.
All right, so 2 creatures deployed. Looks like.
this is exactly the kind of thing that Ryan wants to be doing. With Teferi, he knows every one of his cards are going to resolve. Lavinia is making something like Dark Ritual, and that he scoops it up.
All right, we're going to game 3.
So this is really tough for Ryan. One thing I really like about playing the fair blue decks is usually they have the lowest variance of any deck, which means that you're probably mulliganing the least of any deck. So maybe Ryan has a strategy of very aggressively mulliganing to counter Magic, which is perfectly reasonable against Alan. Maybe these are balanced hands, but he wants to make sure he can beat a turn 1 attempt at a Doomsday.
So he's basically almost like how people mulligan till they get ley lines right now. He's desperate to have counter Magic. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely a perfectly reasonable thing is to basically just mulligan to a force. I would definitely consider doing that. You can't keep a legacy hand of Preordained Arcanist. You might have already lost the game at that point.
Yep. All right, let's see. We're started. Roland Chang famously mulled to 1 on stream, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, and died.
He lost.
It was a mull to 1 to find Leyline against Dredge. And surprisingly, the game lasted quite a while and was close, believe it or not. All right, there it is.
So let's see. Did Ryan mulligan to the force?
Doesn't appear he did.
Oh, that's not good.
Unless he's doing what you talked about earlier, where you let Doomsday resolve and counter the win condition. What's the odds on that right now?
I'd say kind of low, just based on his. He's not even looking at his hand. I feel like he looks a little defeated. Now he could be, acting really well. Maybe he's he doesn't want to get dazed. He doesn't want his force to get dazed. So, it's definitely reasonable to let the Doomsday resolve here.
Sure.
But I just don't get the impression that Ryan even thought about it. But I could be wrong. He could be next leveling me, at least.
Well, I'm about to find out. How many cards does it put Doomsday? 5?
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any combo decks that you're partial to, Chris?
What's that?
Are there any combo decks that you really enjoy playing?
In Vintage or just in general?
In general, no format.
I don't play much combo, but I do like Black Red Reanimator and Legacy. That's just a deck that I enjoy. I've played that quite a bit. I haven't played it like competitively or at Monday Night Legacy or whatever in a really long time, but I just really like that deck.
It is a very powerful deck, for sure. And if Dredge wasn't the graveyard deck of choice in Vintage, it would be interesting to see if a Reanimator deck could be possible. There was a while where I don't think Swords to Plowshares was really being played in Vintage, but it has been for a little while now.
Yeah. And I guess going back to my earliest days of playing Magic, I loved the card Reanimate. I loved Exhume. I've been playing Reanimator decks here and there as long as I can remember. When I was in high school, I played Reanimator in Standard. It was like with Zombify and Achroma Angel of Wrath. And so, yeah, I like Reanimator. It's just cool. All right, Ancestral here. So I guess...
Good. That's it. Ryan's got a Pyroblast.
Pyroblast.
So Alan has a blue floating.
Force.
Does Ryan have a Fluster? He has a recall.
Well,
Oh,
that's not
there's the
very good.
fluster.
Fluster.
Yeah. Ryan with the force.
Scoop. All right, let's tune into the players.